Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Gold Rush Mastermind, and it's wonderful to see new faces here today. Always excited when I can be able to share what I've been learning on this journey into the world of wealth literacy using sound money. And for those of you who don't know what sound money is, it's just a fancy name for gold and silver. So there you go. And I want to welcome some of our returning guests. Hyacinth and John, welcome, welcome. And welcome to our new guests, of course. And I'm so glad you could join us. And if everybody could just maybe write in the chat where you're from. I know Hyacinth is from the UK, which is really cool. We have friends all around the world. And it's been my pleasure and my honor to be able to share with you this journey that I've been learning into the world of sound money, gold and silver, also known as God's money. Does anybody know why they refer to gold and silver as God's money? Does anybody know? Ooh. Anybody have any idea? Because it was here when God made Earth, right? Okay. This was not here. So that's the big difference. And the other thing I was going to touch upon, and I know some of those who are returning know this because they've been learning along this journey. Does anybody know what fiat means? Fiat currency. Okay, so we've got heads nodding. That's cool. Does anybody know the Latin term? Fiat is really just what we would deem like the US dollar, the euro, the yen, all the different currencies. Do you notice how we use the word currencies versus money? Now, people think that this is money because seems to be the language we use, but in actual fact, there's only one thing that's real money. And that's precious metals, that's gold and silver. That is it. It's even written in the US Constitution. Did you know that? I did. I just found that out. The only real money is gold and silver. This isn't real. This is considered a currency, fiat. And in Latin, it means currency by force. Isn't that interesting? That in itself is kind of a, we've been taught all our lives to save this in the bank. Okay. But the wealthy don't save this in the bank. How many knew that? So my post today, or at least what I posted earlier, was do what the 99% don't do. Does anybody know what I mean by that? Robert Kiyosaki said that. If you know anything about Robert Kiyosaki, he's a huge advocate of trying to educate people and get people to understand the difference between real money and fake money. Because we've been thinking that fiat is money, but it's not. It's a force circulated currency that we use in a bartering system. And they move us towards, getting into this system that is very controlled and very manipulated. They can't control and manipulate this. How many of you know that? Okay. So who do you think are the biggest holders of gold and silver? Anybody? Anybody? Anybody know? Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. The wealthy. Specifically, anybody? Mm.
Banks?
Yes, the banks and the government.
That's the government?
The government, yeah, the government and the banks. They're the biggest holders of gold and silver. And if you actually look at their books right now, you'll see that they have increased it hugely. as of late. And the reason is because gold and silver is the only asset class to hedge against inflation. And what is the economic environment at this time?
Not good.
Yeah, look, yeah. Girl, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's called massive inflation. I don't even agree with the numbers that they've even picked, because we all know that in the real world, when you go to have to buy something, it's a heck of a lot more than 7%. Anybody else notice that is a lot more than 7%?
Yeah.
I mean, it's insanity. So this is what I've been trying to share here the last few weeks, is about really understanding the buying power, the difference in the buying power between money and currency. This is the biggest thing, is that the issue is that the average person holds this. They don't hold this. Okay. So over the years, we have really lost the buying power. So even though we're getting an increase in salaries from our M1s or an increase in our M2s, we seem to have to make a heck of a lot more of it in order to have the same things that we used to just buy even a few years ago. So in other words, that's why they keep saying, I'm not even making enough to keep up with inflation. Okay. So this is where the wealthy have learned, this is how you hedge against economic collapse and bad government decisions. Okay. They never taught us that in school. I believe on purpose, of course, but that's just my viewpoint. So, so what I wanted to do, just to help you get a feel, and I know some of you are educated here, but I know some people are going to watch the replay. So I would love to share a short video with you just to lay the landscape for you about real versus fake. And then I'm just going to cover a couple of things and get some questions answered. And then we're going to jump into a couple of other subjects. Is that okay if I share a little video? Okay, this is a really great video to share. So hang on one second and I'll get my screen. Okay, oops, here we go. Let me know if you can see it. Everybody see that? Are we good? Awesome. I'm going to.
In 2008, the world was given a wake-up call. The biggest financial crash in human history was delayed by the same poor decisions that brought it about in the first place. What that massive bailout bought us was not a solution, but merely time. Time for the people responsible to wring the last few dollars out of a dying system. But also, for those able to see the cliff edge approaching, time to protect themselves and their families from the imminent plunge. And in the end, that time may prove to be the most valuable commodity of all.
There are these brief moments in history where the safe haven asset for the last 5,000 years simultaneously becomes the asset class that has the greatest single potential gains in purchasing power. We're in one of these cycles right now where money is the best investment. Get out of currency, buy money, and you're probably going to be able to buy a whole lot more stuff later. But the best thing that people can do of all is really to take on their own responsibility for getting financially educated. This is the most important thing. Don't let the banks and the brokerage houses and other people guide all of your decisions. Find out what's going on for yourself. Empower yourself.
At Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, delegates from 44 allied and associate countries arrived for the opening of the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference.
Our story begins in 1944. With World War II coming to an end, the Allied nations met at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to create a new financial system which would stabilize the world once the war ended. With America poised to enter a golden age of prosperity, the US dollar was chosen as the world's reserve currency.
The Bretton Woods system was created after the Second World War at the Bretton Woods Conference in New Hampshire. And rather than using gold as a means of exchange between countries, as was the case under the old gold standard, the dollar was going to be used. The dollar was chosen because back then it was as good as gold.
Under this new system, countries agreed to fix their currencies to the US dollar, and the US dollar would be tied to gold at a price of $35 per ounce. This meant that countries around the world could trade their currencies for US dollars, which they could then exchange for gold. This created a system where all currencies were essentially backed by gold. To avoid the logistics of shipping physical gold across the world, when countries did exchange their currencies for gold, it was usually stored safely in the US.
Under the Bretton Woods system, you could exchange your currency or your dollars for gold. Now, it only applied to foreign countries and central banks. And we began to run budget deficits. We were running the Great Society program under Lyndon Johnson, and we were fighting a war in Vietnam. And all of a sudden, we were running these deficits, and countries were changing their dollars. And they said they wanted gold. And it began with the French, and then it started to spread.
With all the new spending programs in the United States, other countries became concerned that the US was spending more money than it had gold reserves. They started exchanging their dollars for gold and demanded physical delivery, as they felt that there were more dollars being printed than the gold that backed it. To prevent this outflow of gold from American vaults, President Nixon called for an emergency suspension of the gold convertibility system.
I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
All of the problems that we see today in the monetary system are a direct result of the decision made in August 15th, 1971, to abandon fixed link back to gold. What gold did is it provided discipline on governments, provided discipline on government spending.
By removing the link between gold and the US dollar, President Nixon created a system where all currencies were backed by nothing. This is what is known as a fiat currency.
Fiat currency is currency that's backed by nothing except government promises. The word fiat is a Latin word, and it basically means currency that's circulating by force. If people have confidence in that currency, and if there's enough government force, that will enable the currency to circulate for a period of time until people lose confidence in the currency.
There is no nation on this planet that currently uses money. We all use currency. There will come a day when everybody knows the difference.
Money is a medium of exchange, and the way it has evolved is that it's always something of intrinsic value until the modern age, when the politicians say, well, we don't need anything of intrinsic value anymore. All we need is political decree. We can say this is money, this piece of paper is money. Now money has a new characteristic, but underneath it all, there's this same concept in place that nobody ever seems to challenge, and that is that governments have a right to declare something of no value to be money, and you must accept it. That's really the problem, and it's still the problem today. It's destroying the economies of the world.
Hyperinflation may be one of several scenarios facing the world today, but history has shown us that whenever a nation tried to run its economy using an artificial fiat system, the end result is always the same: disaster.
There is a proven 100% failure rate. There is no exception to this. Fiat currencies always fail. And then 40 years ago, we tried this grand experiment where all the world's currencies became fiat at the same time when we ended the Bretton Woods system.
The world is going to have to extricate itself from this monetary system based on the dollar, because if you want to back your currency, you have to back it with something. You can't back it with nothing. You always think of that old Superman movie where the first one where Lois Lane And she falls off the top of the building, and Superman catches her. And he says, I got you. Don't worry, I got you. And she says, well, you got me. Who's got you? Well, that's the dollar. Who's got the dollar? It's not Superman. The dollar can't fly on its own. The dollar used to be backed by gold. It was gold that had the dollar. It's like everybody has tethered their ships to the Titanic of currencies. And so we're all going to go down.
The government wants to sell you paper. So I would say it's the government and Wall Street.
Gold in the hands of people is the way you control government. Governments cannot create money out of thin air. If it's gold, they can only create paper out of thin air. And if they can create paper out of thin air, they can use that paper to wage wars, or they can use that paper as a political contrivance to enrich their friends. And as a consequence, governments have been fighting gold all century long.
It's not that the price of gold is going up. It's that the value of the dollar is going down. The price remains constant in terms of human effort and purchasing power. An ounce of gold today will buy the same thing it bought 2,000 years ago. An ounce of gold today is approximately takes so much human effort to get out and refine the same human effort that it took to do certain things 2,000 years ago. It's the human effort equation that maintains stability. How much effort does it take?
Gold is financial insurance. And the thing about it is you own it because you want to be protected. And, you just have to have it if you want to have or sleep at night, because there's nothing else. If some catastrophic event happens, and we've seen them, how are you going to be protected?
So, did you like that? That one video sent me down the rabbit hole. It was fascinating to me. I was having massive aha moments when I was listening to that. It was like, it was just so clear to me what's been going on, because we have all lived on this planet long enough to know that we are working harder for a whole lot less. And it's because we have tethered ourselves to a system. Like he says, we've tethered ourselves to currency, which is like tethering yourself to the Titanic. And who pushed us in that direction? The governments and the banks. Nobody ever taught us this in school, ever. My girlfriend, Danielle, who shared this with me, she was a teacher for 14 years. She says, they never taught us this, and I never taught it to my students. We didn't have a clue, right? It's been the secret of the wealthy for a very long time. A very long time. Can I reach out and ask, what was the biggest impact for you as you witnessed that? I realize when you see it for the first time, I mean, I've seen it a few times, but it's so more and more just keeps kicking in. What kind of hit you the most? What was most relevant for you in that conversation? Mark, thank you.
Well, I kind of knew that the government and the banks were trying to screw us over, but put it in that way. But I never thought at what point that the game was there, the game was on to, it's not, I don't want to go into conspiracies, but it's all a way of keeping the people under control. If everybody would have gold and silver right now, the government couldn't do nothing against us. So, we would be like really powerful. So, and I didn't really realize at one point we needed that. We needed, it's like, okay, now I need to buy gold. I need to buy silver. This is, I already see my little, safe with my gold and my silver. And a question that I have, is it better to have it physically or to buy it on the stock? Physically, yeah. And it's really funny because you see all these movies, these like movies like the pandemic, like zombies and whatever. And you know, the only thing that really matters in there is the money is not worth anything anymore. You know, if you have metals, you know, then that's worth something. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. History has most definitely proven you want to be holding this in your hot little hands. History has proven 100%, like Mike Maloney says, if you've never watched any of the series of Mike Maloney, I highly recommend it. I posted the first video in the Gold Rush Mastermind Facebook group. It's an incredible series. It'll teach you a lot about the system. But the only ones who have ever survived economic collapse in any country is those who held precious metals. They're the only ones. Everybody knows the value, even though it may not be circulating right now in our everyday life. Trust me, if there's an economic collapse, they ain't taking this. They'll take this all day long. Everybody knows the intrinsic value of precious metals. Everybody does. It's funny how we know that, and yet we don't do anything about it to empower ourselves. I mean, really physically empower ourselves to be in a position for that. So this is one of the things we learn in the 7K Metals Company is the education. The education is one of the biggest parts of that membership, and understanding the different types of reasons why you would buy certain types of metals versus others, and collectibles for other reasons. So I just love sharing. So thank you for sharing that, Mark. That's very good. Does anybody else want to share what they picked up on that video?
I think I already know about that, but it's like didn't really do anything about it.
Right.
I think it's like, what do we do? Like, what are our options? Well, you know.
And thank you. And you're right, Reen. We learn these things, but then it's kind of like, okay, now what? Like, who do I trust? Where do I go? What do I buy? Right? Like, you know, do I get more of it? Like, and this was exactly what 7K Metals was all about. They wanted to educate the average person to understand they now have a place where they can go get all that information, not just the information, but actually access to everything you need that fits all categories. And the categories they talk about is defense type of investment and offense type of investment. I never knew about the offense stuff. I already knew about the defense part. Most people, as we just realized, is that the wealthy buy gold and silver, the banks, the government, they hoard it because it's the only thing that actually has intrinsic value, real value. It's the only thing that is money. Everything else is just a forced type of circulation, and the government decreeing this is what it is. But there's nothing like the guy says, who's got you? Like there's nothing there. So it's just it gives governments no discipline whatsoever, as well. We've seen that is a fact. So this is what 7K was trying to do. They were opening up the market so that the average person could now have access to everything that the privileged have had access to. And that's why I'm super excited to keep sharing the information and to empower all of you to make the decision that you need to do for what's best for you. When I first got into 7K, it's like, oh, just give me the metals, give me the metals. And my girlfriend Danielle said, Tony, go listen to the education. I'm like, yeah, just give me the metals. She goes, Tony. Right? So I spend an hour, and you can stop and pause it along the way. You do cook dinner while you're watching it. The co-founders do an amazing job sharing the education, and with all the experts and stuff that you saw in the videos. And it was just like, oh, wait a minute. I'm more than just hedging. I'm in all 5 categories as an investor. And what does that mean? It means what they look at is, what do you buy for hedging? Okay, which is a defense. What do you buy for accumulation, wealth protection, wealth diversification, and coin collecting, which is a big offense. In the 7K metals, does anybody know the top 5 things that the wealthy do to create family legacy? Do you know what the 5 assets are? Anybody know the 5 assets?
I don't know. I'm just guessing here. Real estate.
Number 1, absolutely. That's why I love that you're here, Rini, and that Jimmy's here. Real estate is number 1. That's why you guys are so passionate, because because Jimmy has a beautiful story that I got to listen to yesterday, about his education and his journey, and he did it through the real estate. Jimmy, could you speak into that a bit, hun?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm at work right now.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. So then I had my coworker, he was talking to me, so I kind of missed the whole video.
That's okay.
But I understood the whole story. But yeah, I'm a big Rich Dad Poor Dad fan. That's kind of what started it for me. I'm not a big reader, so I read that book. Now I can't stop reading books, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Was the first book, that was the first book I read before I invested in real estate. Tony, I used to invest in real estate a lot.
Wow.
A lot. That's how I got into it. That was the first investment that I did. And then I invested in stock, no bonds. Well, there were some bonds, but it was a higher broker who does the investment, including digital metal, precious metal, but it's digital, not, I don't have the physical thing, but it's part of my investment is some of the money was invested in digital precious metals.
That's
just
good.
Kind of, yeah, I think you just have to diversify. It's not one thing. And now I'm into crypto, so I have just different thing in my portfolio. I think that a balanced portfolio, how many percent you want to put in what kind of thing.
Exactly. But what people are missing out on is the actual physical holding of gold and silver. Your digital, albeit great for down the road if there's no, electrical storm. Right? You have to have something that's tangible to share in this life, right? And Jimmy will know that, right, too, is that this is so important to have physical assets. I have a lot of this in the vault, but I also have this on hand as well. So I have what I need to barter, but I also have what I need as far as growth legacy as well. Jimmy, go ahead. I could see that. I'd love for your input.
Yeah, so I was actually, I was refinancing. I had a chunk of change, and I was telling my fiance at the time, I was like, yeah, I want to buy, or actually a girlfriend, because I was telling her I want to buy, some precious metals. And she's like, precious metal better be a freaking ring. And then, so then I had to do a couple of diversions. So I wasn't able to get some precious coins, but it is in the plans for the future.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then I know where to go to get it.
Yeah.
I'll just hit you up.
Well, what's really cool, just so you all know, one of the benefits of the membership is not just the education. They've also have everyday spending, for discounts on travel. That's a whole different section too. But they also do gold-backed IRAs. So a lot of people are switching out of their just fiat IRAs into the gold-backed. They help you with that. But here's the kicker. Remember, everybody says, well, I'm not rich. I don't have this money but here's the kicker. They have what they call the Sound Money Wallet. It's a digital wallet. So it kind of speaks into what Rini said. It's a digital wallet, except, and you can, by the way, you can fund it with crypto, Rini. Okay. So you can take your profits from crypto, put it into the Sound Money Wallet. It converts to cash, and you can go in there and you can buy any amount of silver and gold. So for the first time ever, fractional buying of silver and gold. So even if you only had $1, you could go in there and go, oh, I'd like to buy $1 worth of silver, please. Oh, I'd like to buy $1 worth of gold, please. So what it's doing is it's disciplining yourself. Instead of saving this every month, you're going in and buying this instead. You see the difference? Mm-hmm. So it's really about disciplined savings, but not in currency, but in real money. And then you can have it directly shipped to your door within 24 hours. You don't wait 3 weeks or 6 weeks. You can have it shipped anytime you want. You just click a button that says ship now, which is really cool. That to me just blew my mind, Because yeah, I can get it down the street. There's no doubt about it. I can get it down the street. But when I started seeing all the other benefits, there's no comparison. And then when I learned the education about the collectibles, that was just on a whole nother level. I went, oh my goodness gracious, I have really missed out. Anyway, number one, real estate. You are absolutely correct. Number two, fine art. Fine art. Number three, rare coins. Number four, gold. Number five, precious metals. So out of 5 things that the wealthy create legacy of, we have 4 out of the 5 in 7K metals. How cool is that? And everybody goes, fine art, Tony. Like, you hang this stuff on the wall? Like, what are you talking about? Well, in 7K, they realized that in the collectible world, collectibles are huge. So they have created a whole collectible series of incredible, like little mini Mona Lisas, as we like to call them. And people are blown away by the art in their gold notes and in their silver notes. And the stories behind it is just, that's a whole nother level in itself. I won't get into it, but it's just mind blowing. And I am just so happy that my girlfriend blessed me with this information. And believe you me, it took her a few months because she introduced it to me in the summertime. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Hey, Tony, question on the fine arts.
Yeah,
I overheard someone saying that a lot of the reason for the fine arts is also for tax write-off purposes. Is that true? And then I don't know how they get the benefits of that.
I think the benefits would be maybe from the I don't know, because I'm not a tax person in the United States, nor am I a tax person in Canada, but we do have an accountant who's now a new affiliate as well in Noble Goldman, Kim. And that would be a great question to ask her, because I think she might know. So I'll pass that on to her to ask her, but that's a really great question. I love this. Anybody else have a question?
I wonder if it's the appreciation,
maybe
depreciation kind of thing. I don't know. I know that in crypto they have arts too now, the NFT, the meta.
Well, Mark, did you have something that you wanted to?
No,
yes, the metaverse is another thing, isn't it?
That's the virtual reality.
When you buy art, I think it's because it's considered an investment. That's where you get kind of a tax write-off, because it's an investment.
Yeah, it's a world. That's a world I am not familiar with as far as the tax goes in that arena. But to my real estate people, I have a question. I learned this about why is it that the wealthy pay for their real estate in gold and silver?
So to answer your question, I'm not exactly sure, but I just experienced that recently. A really good friend, her parents had gold bars and literally paid for their multi-million-dollar house here in Orange County. And I was like, it literally just happened this last month. And I was so intrigued by it. And it has to do with something like taxes or something along that line, where they can divert because of that money, or the currency wise. You would probably know more, but I don't know.
Gain. I think that's the capital gain, because like gold, silver, or art or anything, when it's considered investment, when you sell it at a gain, it's considered capital gain. So sometimes like you do 1031 exchange with real estate, maybe they have something like that you divert the money, your gain, by buying something else. Maybe it's part of the tax rule that you can, if you buy your gain into something else, normally it's similar investment, maybe that's considered similar. I don't know the tax code, but I think maybe it has something to do with that, diverting your capital gain into something else.
It might be, but what I've been told and what's in the US Constitution, not a constitution, but in the fine print of banks and mortgage lenders, do you know that even after you pay off your mortgage, your debt, because your mortgage is your debt, and you use this to do it, you actually don't own your home or property. unless you paid with it with that. The gold or the silver, like Jimmy said, nobody has the right to take your property or anything on it when you paid for it with gold or silver. All debt must be paid, and it's null and everything is free and clear if paid with precious metals versus currency, fiat. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
How about that?
That makes way more sense, because then you're putting your money into gold, which is going up in value, and you could pay for it that way. And then now you're the bank. So it makes more sense.
Because your mortgage, your debt piece of paper, when it says, oh, you've now finished paying your debt, doesn't say you own the property. You think you all do, and of course it sounds like you do, but if the government decided to seize it, guess what? They can seize it. If the government or the bank decided to seize your bank account, guess what? They can. Once you put your fiat currency in their institution, they own it. They don't tell you that. We have been so programmed to save this in their system. They have complete control of everything, even after we buy it. And nobody, I don't know about you, but nobody ever taught us to save gold and silver, well, right? And what it actually needs, right?
That's how they make their money, by using your money.
So the reason why I love having you guys here for the real estate, because here's the other one. You'll love this. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this. You guys know this. I'm sure you do. And I'd love it if you could speak into this. Do you know that do you know what the percentage is of working capital the rich keep on hand? The percentage of working capital the rich work on hand? 5%. And what do all of us do?
100%.
Right? Robert Kiyosaki says, I don't use my money to buy real estate. I use other people's money. Right? He uses the bank's money. But do you know how of course, the banks always want something as a collateral. What's the percentage of collateral if you want a line of credit or you want a mortgage or you want something where you've got they're always asking for collateral. Is it 1-to-1?
No, it's you use leverage,
right?
To do this, like normally on a house, they require you put 20% down, but oftentimes you can use other people's money. Like I always build line of credit and then I pull money out and I buy real estate. That's how I bought real estate in the past. And I keep repeating that process. When it appreciates, I would refinance and pull money out because I use other people's money to accumulate my real estate investment.
You're so smart, but you would have even more leverage if you had gold and silver. You want to know what I learned? My friend Curtis, who needed $250,000 line of credit, the bank made him put up $5 million in assets. $250,000 to $5 million. So if anything ever happened, he'd lose his whole business. If you think about it, he would lose everything and have to start again. He then learned, the banks never told him, and of course they'll never tell you this, another one of their little secrets. If he had $250,000 of these babies, that's all he would have needed. 1-to-1. Isn't that interesting? This is what they don't teach us. And this is what, 7K Metals is trying to do, is to educate us to understand that we need to start disciplining ourselves into tangible assets versus the fiat. Then we move that fiat into real assets like you guys are doing, into the real estate, right? But honestly, the foundation starts here. This is the part that they don't tell us. And given the economic environment that we're in right now, which is we need to hedge, number one column, hedge against government bad decision making and economic collapse. We need this in our hands, not in digital. It's great to have it, but we definitely need something right now in this moment that is tangible, that we can use in, God forbid, that we start to experience what other countries most definitely have experienced. And the only ones who survived was the people who held the precious metals. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing everything in our Noble Goldman community and all of our friends and family, to get them to understand, even if they just had a little bit, to have that foundation. And honestly, how do you go wrong with God's money? I like it. It feels good. Has anybody ever held a real gold and silver?
Growing up, my parents have a jewelry store, and I was born and raised in Jakarta. Jimmy, you said you've been to Indonesia. That's how people saved money, was people saved money by buying gold. That's why there's a lot of jewelry store. I was in the jewelry store business, my parents, and that they saved money by buying gold. And we used to have those kilo gold. That's what we bought. And then we turn it into jewelry, but those kilo gold.
That's awesome, Rainey. And it's interesting because I had another gal from the UK, Tally. She's her culture is all about precious metals. Well, most of the Asian countries understand the value of precious metals, and they carry it on from generation to generation, much like you were explaining, Rainey. I mean, they just know the power of gold and silver, and they've always passed it on. We haven't, in this modern society of ours, that we have been streamlined, as you've all heard, into a system that does not serve us. It only serves them. And I, for one, would like to stop that little train and get people off. And this is why I love what you and Rini, you and Jimmy are doing, and others, coming together and linking arms and empowering each other with all the different options. Right? We don't have to follow their system, because I always said, once you know the rules of the game, like basically once you know the game, will you play the game differently? Right? So here we are learning, but what's the next step? And that's what 7K is trying to do. Is I'm now giving you a vehicle that, if you want to look more into it, I'd love to share more with you when you have the opportunity. So that's kind of what I wanted to share today. So thank you, everybody, for hanging in. Oh, go ahead, Mark, please.
Can you put the link? It's 7K metals.
Yeah, I'll put the link. I'll give you.
Yeah, the link.
Yeah, what I'll also do too, if you want to watch more videos, Robert Kiyosaki's on this as well. I'm going to write it in the chat. There's a link you can go to watch more. It's called Freedom Gold Rush. And that's where I got this video from. And there's also, you can also meet the founders in there as well. There's 4 founders. One of them is a billionaire, by the way. He started Melaleuca. These are very smart individuals, very heart-centered, integral people. This is exactly what Mark was looking for our Noble Goldman community. And they also have a board of directors. Nothing is made, there's no one person making a decision. This is a team effort, which is also very important in a company. It's a legacy company, obviously. They knew that there was, this is going to carry on for a very long time. We just had Zach Davis on our morning coffee call, and he was talking about the future, about what happens when the metals go really through the roof. What's this going to do with our membership and how people can access things that are more affordable? They're always thinking about the members. How can we make it safe, secure, and just keep growing and better for our members, for the people? And so I'm really just thrilled to be able to share this with you. I'm honored to be your Noble Goldman representative and help any way that I can. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate all of your input and your support. Thank you.
Thank you for the info.
Really cool. Thank you. That's cool. Thank you, guys. Have a very blessed day.
Yeah, I would like to learn more. So maybe I could connect with you, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know when's a good time, Rini. I'd love to. It'd be great. I would love that, especially with your knowledge. You would be so powerful to help people, honestly. Not that you're not already helping people already, of course. So, but yeah, just, when you combine it all, right? Because me, I mean, I've been in cryptocurrency for 5 years. Okay. You have to diversify, but you also have to diversify smart too, right? And I think what's been happening is we've been diversifying, but not smart, because of what we've been think we know or been taught to do versus what the truth is. So this is where I just had a massive aha moment. And I know, because my family's from Europe, so I know that the only ones that survived is because they had this. Happened in the Soviet Unions in the 80s, happened in Venezuela 20 years ago. Okay, it happens. Bad decisions by not such good people. And the only ones who get hurt are the masses. What we experienced in 2008 in America, which fed into Canada, not that much, but really America, that was but a flea on the back of an elephant's butt of what's going to happen. Because we're talking global economic crashes now, and not just about shelter. We're talking about food. We're talking about everything. Right? So we need to get people empowered to understand they've got to have something in their hands that's of real intrinsic value that can be used. No more of this forcing, right? Again, hopefully I pray that we won't have to, but in the meantime, you can leverage this far better than what they've told us that we can leverage. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's just another means of empowering ourselves and just securing what they call, financial insurance. And what better financial insurance than God's money? So that's, I'll put my faith in that rather than the bank and the government.
Thank you, Tony. And Hyacinth, how do you say your name?
Hyacinth. Yes,
Hyacinth.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Maybe we'll, same here. Nice meeting you.